Nuclear weapons are the most destructive, inhumane and indiscriminate weapons ever created. Both in the scale of the devastation they cause, and in their uniquely persistent, spreading, genetically damaging radioactive fallout, they are unlike any other weapons. A single nuclear bomb detonated over a large city could kill millions of people. The use of tens or hundreds of nuclear bombs would disrupt the global climate, causing widespread famine. A single nuclear weapon can destroy a city and kill most of its people. Several nuclear explosions over modern cities would kill tens of millions of people. Casualties from a major nuclear war between the US and Russia would reach hundreds of millions. It takes around 10 seconds for the fireball from a nuclear explosion to reach its maximum size. A nuclear explosion releases vast amounts of energy in the form of blast, heat and radiation. An enormous shockwave reaches speeds of many hundreds of kilometers an hour. The blast kills people close to ground zero, and causes lung injuries, ear damage and internal bleeding further away. People sustain injuries from collapsing buildings and flying objects. Thermal radiation is so intense that almost everything close to ground zero is vaporized. The extreme heat causes severe burns and ignites fires over a large area, which coalesce into a giant firestorm. Even people in underground shelters face likely death due to a lack of oxygen and carbon monoxide poisoning. In the long term, nuclear weapons produce ionizing radiation, which kills or sickens those exposed, contaminates the environment, and has long-term health consequences, including cancer and genetic damage. Their widespread use in atmospheric testing has caused grave long-term consequences. Physicians project that some 2.4 million people worldwide will eventually die from cancers due to atmospheric nuclear tests conducted between 1945 and 1980. The use of less than 1% of the nuclear weapons in the world could disrupt the global climate and threaten as many as 2 billion people with starvation in a nuclear famine in the long term. The detonation of thousands of nuclear weapons could result in a nuclear winter, which would destroy our fragile ecosystem. Physicians and first responders would be unable to work in devastated, radioactively contaminated areas. Even a single nuclear detonation in a modern city would strain existing disaster relief resources to the breaking point. A nuclear war would overwhelm any relief system we could build in advance. Displaced populations from a nuclear war will produce a refugee crisis that is orders of magnitude larger than any we have ever experienced. The existence of nuclear weapons has a strong impact on the environment. Nuclear war would mean a climate disruption with devastating consequences. The world would fall under a nuclear winter, be subject to a deadly global famine and exacerbated effects of global warming. Nuclear war refers to a large-scale conflict in which nations or groups use nuclear weapons against each other, resulting in widespread destruction and loss of life. It is considered one of the most catastrophic scenarios for humanity and has the potential to end the world as we know it. Nuclear weapons possess an immense destructive power due to their ability to release a tremendous amount of energy in the form of an explosion. The detonation of even a single nuclear weapon can cause devastating effects over a wide area, including the immediate destruction of infrastructure, severe burns and injuries to humans, and long-term health consequences from radiation exposure. In the context of ending the world, a full-scale nuclear war involving the use of numerous nuclear weapons by multiple nations would have catastrophic consequences on a global scale. The detonation of multiple nuclear warheads would release enormous amounts of energy and produce powerful shockwaves, leading to the destruction of cities and critical infrastructure. The resulting firestorms, massive smoke clouds, and debris thrown into the atmosphere would cause widespread devastation and severely disrupt the Earth's climate system. One of the most significant dangers of nuclear war is the release of radioactive fallout. Nuclear explosions generate highly radioactive particles that can be carried by wind currents and spread over vast distances. The fallout would contaminate the air, soil, and water sources, making them hazardous for human and animal life. The long-term radiation exposure would cause severe health effects, including cancer, genetic mutations, and other illnesses, resulting in a significant loss of life and potential long-term damage to the environment. Beyond the immediate effects, a large-scale nuclear war could also have a profound impact on global stability and the socio-political order. The use of nuclear weapons could escalate tensions between nations, leading to a breakdown of international relations, economic systems, and governance structures. The aftermath of a nuclear war would likely involve a chaotic and fragmented world, with social disorder, mass migrations, and struggles for resources becoming widespread. It's important to note that the consequences of nuclear war are not confined to the warring nations alone. The atmospheric effects caused by the release of smoke, dust, and debris into the upper atmosphere could have a significant impact on the global climate, leading to a phenomenon known as nuclear winter. The blocking of sunlight and the resulting cooling of the Earth's surface could disrupt agricultural production, cause widespread famine, and further exacerbate the already dire consequences of the war. Given the immense destructive power and far-reaching consequences of nuclear war, it is a scenario that should be avoided at all costs. The international community has made significant efforts to prevent the use of nuclear weapons through arms control agreements, disarmament treaties, and diplomatic negotiations. The goal is to reduce the number of nuclear weapons and create a climate of trust and cooperation among nations to prevent the catastrophic outcome of a nuclear war and preserve global peace and security. The socio-economic impacts would also be terrible, with developing countries and marginalized groups the ones that will suffer the most. Nuclear weapons are also a vacuum for financial support, in their development, maintenance and dismantlement. This is money that could be better spent funding assets such as green technologies and health facilities. These are some of the main problems people likely facing after the explosion of nuclear bomb. 1. Destruction and death. A single nuclear weapon can destroy a city and kill most of its people. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are prime examples of the fatality caused by an atomic bomb. Several nuclear explosions over modern cities would kill tens of millions of people. Casualties from a major nuclear war between the US and Russia would reach hundreds of millions. 2. Civilians are the main victims. The extreme destruction caused by nuclear weapons cannot be limited to military targets or to combatants. Civilians are more often the majority of casualties from a nuclear attack. Those within range are either killed or suffer long-term health implications from a nuclear blast and resulting radiation. Even those in neighboring cities or countries would suffer from the impact of a nuclear detonation. Due to the inability of nuclear weapons to distinguish between civilians and militants, and the lack of control we have over nuclear blasts makes them a prime example of inhumane weaponry that needs to be outlawed. 3. High levels of radiation. Nuclear weapons produce ionizing radiation, which kills or sickens those exposed, contaminates the environment, and has long-term health consequences, including cancer and genetic damage. The legacy of nuclear testing means that up to 2.4 million people worldwide will die from illnesses linked to nuclear testing in the 20th century. Even the production of nuclear weapons has an effect on the environment. Producing the explosive materials used in nuclear weapons leads to long-lasting radioactive pollution. 4. Climate disruption and worldwide famine. Use of less than 1% of the nuclear weapons in the world could disrupt the global climate and threaten as many as 2 billion people with starvation in a nuclear famine. The thousands of nuclear weapons possessed by the US and Russia could bring about a nuclear winter, destroying the essential ecosystems on which all life depends. 5. Humanitarian aid wouldn't be provided to victims. There would be no humanitarian response. Physicians and first responders would be unable to work in devastated, radioactively contaminated areas. Even a single nuclear detonation in a modern city would strain existing disaster relief resources to the breaking point. A nuclear war would overwhelm any relief system we could build in advance. Displaced populations from a nuclear war will produce a refugee crisis that is orders of magnitude larger than any we have ever experienced. 6. Widespread implications to health and the environment. Whether or not they are detonated, nuclear weapons cause widespread harm to health and to the environment. Those that have nuclear weapons are unable to fully control them, making them a constant liability. 7. Misuse of public funds. Spending on nuclear weapons detracts limited resources away from vital social services. Currently, states that are armed with nuclear weapons spend close to US $225 million a day on nuclear forces. These are some of the main issues world facing after the nuclear weapons used. Did you enjoy this video? Check out other clips of Amazing 7 and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified our latest videos.